Hey, Jim,
Andrew,
how would you like to take part in the world's most affordable bagpipe education?
that sounds excellent. I'd like to take part in that.
Cool. We built this thing called Dojo U Insider. It's a lot like this thing, so I figure now would be a good time to talk about it. So it takes this podcast and it levels it up. Although you're not there. It's just me.
That's the main thing that makes it leveled up.
That's why I like it. That's why I like it the best. But no, it's called Dojo U Insider, which is a daily piping lesson delivered to your podcast player of choice every day without fail. And they're lessons that we have curated from over the years at the dojo, and they get delivered to you. It's not just me every day. Cam Drummond's in there, Alistair Henderson's in there, Rob Matheson's in there, Jack Lee's in there sometimes, maybe, or something every now and then.
Now
Jim
you're really
McGilvery was
selling
in
it.
there one.
Yeah, no, this sounded better all the time.
Yeah, it's just a big mix of all the stuff that we've done over the years, delivered to you in podcast form. And you want to know how much it costs?
Yes, I do.
$5 a month, Jim.
But you say it's daily?
Every day.
That's 14 cents per lesson. That's a pretty good deal.
I think so. I think if 14 cents is like rounded up, that's the conservative estimate. I think it's actually a little less because some months have 31 days and so on. Yeah. Yep. So there's $5 a month option or $50 a year option. And it's pretty cool. A lot of us don't have a ton of time in their life right now for the Extreme Pipers Dojo Premium membership. Or even if you're not a Dojo U student, maybe you don't have time for your weekly lessons. However, you can still keep it going. You can still keep the knowledge flowing. You can still, wow, I'm a poet and I don't know it.
That was awesome.
Yeah, you can still keep things going. And so this product is for those folks out there that just want to have something you can do. You don't have to listen every single day, but there's 30 or 40 lessons at a time that you can pick from. So when you're driving around in your car, doing the dishes, mowing the lawn, just get a little bagpipe lesson in. Dojo U Insider can be found at pipersdojo.com/insider. It's amazing.
What a great way to have a little dose of immersion every day. Just a little bit. Keep it always rattling around in the old head. Who knows which nugget you're going to pick up that the next time you play is going to make a big difference. I like it.
All right. So what's on the docket for today, Jim?
I was just scrolling the old Reddit, the old marketplace of ideas here, r/bagpipes. I don't actually know. Is there anything else on Reddit other than r/bagpipes?
I think there's a lot of stuff on Reddit.
I wouldn't know. This is the only thing I've ever put Reddit to use for.
Yeah, the social media bagpipe forum world is an interesting place.
I consider myself like what might you call it, a Bob Dunsire warrior. I've put in my time over there for sure. So I'm trying out the new guy on the block. I don't know if you've heard of it, this Reddit thing, right?
Yeah. Fun fact, I actually knew Bob Dunsire, and I knew him fairly well. I think I would call him a friend, and I know his daughters and stuff like that. Bob Dunsire was a cool guy.
He left one heck of a legacy with the forum, man.
Yep, no doubt. But anyway, what do you got for me? We're going to do some rapid fire.
Yeah, I'm just going to scroll and toss some stuff your way and see what comes of it.
Okay.
To kick things off, does an MSR have to start with a 2/4 march? Must it be 2/4, or can it be can the M of the MSR be a different kind of march?
Great question. So the MSR, you could start it with any kind of march that you want, but for it to be what I would consider a true MSR, it would have to start with a 2/4 march. But the reason why, or the reason I say that, isn't because of any sort of dogma or anything. It just has to do with history. So MSR is a competitive event. I think that's the root of the combination of tunes, is the purpose that it serves in competitions. And then in competitions, yes, it has to be a 2/4 march. And you could go one step further than that. And you could also say that there's really a canon of 2/4 marches that over the years, the more you do this, the more you realize, oh, okay, that 2/4 march technically has the time signature 2/4, but doesn't really fit in the canon of tunes. I like, for example, Royal Scots Polka is an amazing tune. I believe it's written in 2/4 time, and you could march around to it if you wanted to. but it wouldn't really quite fit. I don't know exactly why, but it wouldn't. By the way, another related topic that comes to mind is the R in the MSR. It stands for real, okay, march, chasse, real. But really what we're talking about, get it? Really what we're talking about is a dot cut style, competition style reel. There's a lot of reels out there that are round, like party reels, kitchen piping reels, that if you played that in the context of an MSR would really not fit the sort of, what would you call it? Cultural, colloquial understanding of what an MSR is. Yeah.
Yeah.
Now, after having said all that, if you feel inspired to play an MSR for enjoyment that starts with a 3/4 instead, or a 6/8 march or whatever, by all means, you should go for it and you should play it for enjoyment. But yes, if you're in the competition format, or if you want to be true to the culturally accepted definition of what an MSR is, you should start with a 2/4 march. 4 parts. Minimum 4 parts. Yep.
Minimum 4. And speaking of playing things for enjoyment, just saying, one of my favorite things ever is when I hear somebody playing a dot cut reel and then they shift it to rounded. So they either do a repeat rounded, or in the second half they switch to rounded. I always think that's pretty fun.
Yes, I agree. It can be pretty cool. And by the way, sometimes when you listen to a medley played by a band, the front half of it is sometimes like an enjoyment style MSR. Maybe you do start business. Maybe you do start with a little polka, and then maybe you play some strathspey, and then you go into some round reels or something. So sometimes you do hear that, but yeah. All right, next question.
Next question. This Redditor put down they've got different sounding identical reeds. Hello all. When I first got my practice chanter, it came with some practice chanter reeds. I ordered extras to be safe. I've been using the same reed for the past year, and recently I switched. You know where they're going with this. They've got identical reeds, practice chanter reeds. They switched to the second of the 3 that they bought, and it sounds different than the first.
Thoughts? You want me? Shall I offer my thoughts?
Okay, feel free. I have. Go ahead.
Yep. Thought number 1: if you take one reed and then you switch it to another reed and they sound different, thought number 1 is those reeds are not identical. If they were identical, then they would sound exactly the same. Now, you might be wondering, what the heck? You know, I bought 2 reeds of the same brand and they sound quite different. And then I would say to that, that's very common. For whatever reason, and it would require a real chanter reed, practice chanter reed maker to comment on this with any sort of real ultimate intelligence here. But for whatever reason, practice chanter reeds are really tough to make, and they're really tough to make in a way where they come out sounding consistently. I suspect it's because practice chanter reeds last such a long time. So there's not a high demand for them. It's tough to crank out a whole bunch of practice chanter reeds, and therefore, without the large numbers that you're cranking out, it's difficult to get the consistency. For example, if you're a practice chanter reed maker, you're probably only ever making a couple hundred at a time, and then you're probably taking a break for a while, and then the next time you come back around, it might be tough to get the perfect consistency that you got before. But I don't really know for sure why that is, but I think it's really common for practice chanters reeds not always to sound consistent. I always loved the John Walsh reeds. I don't know if you can still get them. And then I'm not sure what this red reed is called, but these tend to be great practice chanter reeds as well in terms of consistency. And I also find some practice chanter reeds, I don't like the sound of them. So yeah, it's a tricky business.
Yeah,
Yep.
I suspect, you tell me, Andrew, but I'm guessing I'm not the only one who, after years of playing, has a box of practice chanter reeds, many of which are lightly used because I put them in and went, nope, I don't like that one, and just put in a different one.
Sure. But sometimes you'll find someday you'll have a different practice chanter, or maybe your student will.
Right?
And then you put the reed in that chanter and it sounds really nice. This is a common thing. And unfortunately, practice chanters, engineering and design of the reeds, and even of the chanters, it's a little bit less precise than the reeds and chanters with the big pipes. Yeah.
Here's another. What are people's thoughts on older pipes? Glenn, Henderson, 1900 Laries, etc., compared to today's
Mhm.
McCallum, modern R.G. Hardy, etc. And then they say, I play a set of 1910 Hendersons and a set of McRae's. That's pretty cool. And have had success with both of them in solos. What are your thoughts on older pipes versus modern, Andrew?
I have a variety of thoughts on this. And I will say that I've never spent any prolonged periods of time playing the really old pipes.
Mm.
Okay. So I can only speak to just my general experience as a teacher here. And here's what I would say. My answer to this would be pretty similar to if you were a photographer. If you wanted to learn the basics of photography, Jim, and again, I'm not a professional photographer either, but if you wanted to learn the basics of photography, would you want to learn on a camera that was manufactured in the last 10 years? Or even if it was a magnificent camera that was manufactured 70 years ago? Which one would be better to learn the basics of photography?
For the basics, I'd want a recent camera, partly because I'd want support. I'd want to be able to reach out to people and say, I need a replacement piece or I need a cleaning job. I'm also not a photographer. I'm not sure what, but I think I'd want a support community and available parts and things like that.
Yes, exactly. And you'd probably also want a camera that you know for sure is free of any defects.
Yeah.
You would want a mass produced camera to start with. Now, you know how they do all those movies, like some filmmakers are going back to old fashioned film now, and
Yeah.
they're doing things that reach backwards a little bit because it is true, I think, that older cameras did have a certain magnificent quality that maybe you don't get quite as much in the digital. Okay. It's like that with bagpipes. I strongly feel that as a beginner or an intermediate player, by the way, if your first thought when I said that was, oh, that doesn't apply to me because I'm advanced. If that was your first thought, that means you're probably intermediate, right? At least in my book. Usually, you know what I mean? So by advanced, I mean advanced. So for most players, 80 to 85% of pipers, my recommendation would be go with a modern set. I wouldn't even, if I had the money for a new set of pipes right now, I personally would have no interest in a legacy set. But that's what makes some pipers tick, though. So that's just me. Some people are like, oh my God, look at that historical set. That
History.
gets them going. It keeps them up at night thinking about how awesome legacy pipes are. And that really excites them. So for some players, even though that's what Uncle Andrew would recommend, legacy pipes would be a good pick because you love playing them and it excites you. And so there's no one answer to this, but you're going to have the same things you mentioned about the camera are going to be true with the pipes. For example, if your middle section of your bass develops a giant crack in it, okay, if you have a modern set of pipes, it's very easy and affordable to get that piece replaced. If that happens to a legacy set, it sounds to me like a nightmare. So I guess you got to have to somebody's going to have to repair it, and you want to repair it in a way that preserves the instrument and all sorts of fun and interesting.
Shipping ivory around can be tricky. And
Yep.
reed compatibility as well. Just an off-the-shelf reed isn't necessarily going to work the same in an older set.
Yep. The next thing I will say is it's worth a look at what the best players are doing. I think, now I would have to actually check my work on this, but I think if you look at the Glenfiddich competition, I think almost everybody there is playing a set that has been manufactured at least in the last 20 years. I don't think there's very many legacy sets floating around. That's not by any means a blanket statement. And by the way, if my data is wrong on that, I'm happy to be corrected. And certainly in the pipe bands that I've played in, it's almost always a modern set, right? Although I have heard rumors that Bog Hall plays legacy drones. I don't know if that's true or not.
All of them.
Yeah.
That would be the only way to do it, right?
Yeah, I think so. I think I've heard a rumor. I don't know if that's true or not. Again, hit us in the comments if one way or the other. But so just look to what the really good players are doing. I feel like the consistency and the tone and the knowledge about how to make a great sounding set of pipes is just so advanced now that my opinion on the matter is, unless you just love the idea of playing old sets, then I personally would advise you to stick to modern sets. Just
That
one
makes
man's
sense.
take. One man's take.
Mhm. Now, there are several posts scattered throughout here looking for certain pieces of sheet music. I see John Denver's Country Roads. I see the Flintstones theme. So they vary from your standard pipe tunes to a lot of very modern commercial pop anthems, etc. And so I won't read you any of them specifically, but that's just the general. Hey, anybody have music for this? Any hot takes? Yeah,
I got a
throw it
hot
out there.
take on this. I think it's cool that people want to play these pop songs on the pipes. My hot take is this: use this as an opportunity to figure it out on your own.
Mm,
All right. And you don't, if you need sheet music for some of these, then, or if that's really what you want, it just makes me feel like we're missing the point here. Use this as an opportunity to pick something up by ear. That's my hot take. Forget about the sheet music. By the time you find it, you could have already picked it up by ear just with some rapid experimentation. And by the way, what you'll find is, okay, let's say just pick a note with the Flintstones. If you start on F, obviously the first couple times you try it, it's not going to be right, but maybe you'll get a couple of them right. And you're like, I think that's right. And if you're a visual learner, write down the notes that you got, but you'll figure it out.
mm.
You'll figure it out. Just
Yeah,
figure stuff
you'll
out.
ease into it.
It'll be super rewarding and it will contribute to your ability to pick things up by ear. What was the other one? Oh, Country Roads. Yeah.
Country Road. Yeah.
Yep. There's probably a couple different options there. But yeah, pick that up by ear. No big deal. Star Wars, pick it up by ear. Jingle Bells, just pick it up by ear.
And before you know it, you'll be the person who bandmates, etc., are coming to saying, hey, how would you play this? Can you help me figure this out? You'll be an expert.
Totally. And so you don't need sheet music for it.
That's a good hot take. I enjoy it. That's a good hot take.
Yeah, that's my hot take. And then, by the way, the same would go for any other tunes that you love. Question 1, how do you know you love the tune? I know I love the tune because Victoria Police plays it. Okay, so that means you have a recording of the tune. Cool. You can't, no matter what you do, you can't find the music. Great. All right, let's learn this sucker by ear. Right? And then if you hear an actual bagpiper play a bagpipe tune, those give you some big clues, right? Ooh, I knew that. I know that's a D throw. Cool. That means you also know the note, and that's the first piece of the puzzle, right? And then you can start writing things out. And it's not going to go great at first. It reminds me of any other skill. It's not going to go great at first, but you trial and error it and you get better and better at it. Maybe start with something simple like a slow air that you like. It's it'll be easier to figure out those notes and then you work up from it. But I love sight reading. I believe it's something every piper needs to be able to do. But I also believe in learning by ear, and it's something every piper should be able to do. And we want to combine those skills.
What about something in the middle? Have you ever spent time hunting around YouTube for a video of a piper playing a tune that you like and trying to see if you can see their fingers to see how
That's legal. I'll allow it. Yeah, why not?
I was doing that recently with some Chris Gray tunes, and I just wanted to yell at the Celtic Connections cameraman because every time they got close to the part I wanted to see, they cut to the other camera or they moved artistically, and so then something got in the way.
I do that a lot, by the way. I do that a lot. But I do it with chord progressions. What happens to me a lot is I hear a song or a piece of music that I really, really like and really, really moves me. And because I don't have a background in chord playing. That's not my background. I'm a bagpiper. That's what I've always done. But I do like to strum a guitar and I like to poke around a little bit on the piano, but I'm not like a guitar player or a piano player. So chords don't always come totally natural to me. What I'll do is I'll take a piece of music that I love and I'll put it on repeat in the headphones. And then I'll just and sometimes I put it on half speed so it's really slow. And then I peck around on chords on my piano or on my guitar to try to figure out what the chord structure is of the tune. And then what I'll often do is use that chord progression to inform a new composition or something like that, where like, ooh, I wonder if that chord progression would sound cool as in a bagpipe composition in some way. So I'll do that a lot, but that's all like trial and error, figuring stuff out. If that's not the spirit of learning the bagpipes, I don't know what is. And when you ask, and when you beg for a piece of sheet music, before you've tried to figure it out on your own, that tells me a lot about you as a player and a learner, and it tells me a lot about your mindset.
Mm.
So that
I feel
question's
like,
always a pet peeve of mine, because we have it all the time at the dojo too. Hey, anybody got the
oh,
sheet
I'm
music
sure,
for
yeah,
this? Anybody
yeah.
got the sheet music for this? It just bugs me a little bit, because I know the person hasn't tried to figure it out on their own, which is a shame, because you'd be surprised how successful you'd be if you just tried it.
I feel like this is a good time also to just toss out a small plug for any tunes, especially specifically bagpipe tunes that are of modern construction, like where the writer is still alive. If they have a tune book or a place where you can buy the tune on like a PDF of the sheet music or something, support them by doing that. Buy it from them, help support them, and then they'll keep making cool tunes. I feel like that's important.
Sure. And I also would recommend, I'm always happy to do a quick Google. So many of the tunes that you want to learn, country roads, for example. If you Google country road bagpipe sheet music, you're going to
It's
find
probably going
something.
to come up. Yeah.
Yeah, it's going to come up. And by the way, what will come up will be usually a pretty amateurish setting of the tune. However, that'll give you enough clues combined with a
Get
little
you
bit of
started.
ingenuity to get you started. Yeah.
Now, here's one that's specific, Andrew. Let's see what comes out of this one. The heading is Flat High G. This
Mhm.
person says that they are an experienced piper with over 35 years of experience,
That's a long
but they have
time.
an issue that they have. Yeah, haven't you been playing for about 35 years?
Yeah.
They say that they're having an issue that they've never had before, and all the other experienced pipers that they've spoken to have not been able to help with it. They say recently their high G has just gone very flat, while the rest of the chanter is perfectly in tune. They say, I've tried multiple reeds, multiple chanters, multiple tuners, and even multiple bagpipes, and apparently
Oh,
their high G is still flat. Now, here's the thing that I think you're probably going to zero in on. They say,
wait, the digital tuner didn't change the tuning of the high G?
oh,
Sorry.
did you read this post already?
No, I don't know.
Yep, that's what they go on to say. And I don't know, this is a little bit of reading between the lines, so I might be making assumptions, but they say the weird thing is that it sounds relatively okay to the ear. It's definitely flat, but not as bad as the tuners tell me. Is there a way to adjust, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera?
Okay.
What do you think?
Wow. There's a lot of triggering stuff in here for me. So,
I thought that might get you going.
okay, let's start with the 35 years thing. So this piper's been playing for 35 years. Okay, so it would be my hope after a few years, not 35, maybe like by the time 3 years rolls around. Okay, it would be my hope for any piper that by that time they've done enough trial and error with the different elements of bagpipe tuning that you'd be able to spot maybe not a perfect high G. That's not what I'm talking about. No, I don't
Mhm.
know what a perfectly tuned high G sounds like, but like you should know what a pretty good sounding high G is. You should be able to identify that with your ear in a short period of time, because you've trialed and errored so much that you just know now. Now, what do I mean by trial and error? What I mean is, okay, what this person should do if they're unsure about the tuning of the high G, what should they do? Just try something, right? Just try
Go up or
something. So
down, see what
don't
happens.
worry about the tuner. The tuner may or may not help us a little bit in a jam, but you don't need it right now. What you need to do is take a bunch of tape off the high G. And by a bunch, it would be take enough tape off that it would make a noticeable difference and see if it sounds better. So right now you're concerned that maybe the high G is suddenly really flat. Cool. What do? Take the tape off, sharpen it up, and see if you like the sound better. And what you might find is, yikes, I don't like that better at all. Or you might find, oh, totally, that's actually better. And then once you get that, then you're going to take off a little bit more tape and see if you like it or not. And at some point, as you continue to take off tape, you'll like it less. And that means you turn around and you go the other way. But this is what I mean by trial and error. By the way, it seems like what I'm saying is very inefficient, okay? But it's not. Each trial, even with the chanter tape method, it takes a few seconds each trial. And each time you do that, you learn and you develop and you develop your sense of that high G. And then what I'll find is it depends with the digital tuner. Okay. It depends. Piper's high G tuning is different than the tuning of G for most other instruments. If your tuner is just a mass market tuner, it will often show that the high G is very flat right? And it's because we're a just tuned instrument. The equal tempered instruments tune their Gs much differently than the bagpipe G is. So
Yeah.
that might be a source of a lot of the confusion too. Maybe you just have a new tuner. Maybe you switch tuners, and because you rely on the tuner so much instead of your logic and your trial and error and your experience, maybe that one slipped by you. That the tuner is actually not originally designed for bagpipes and instead is designed for concert instruments. In which case, you could still use it, but you have to know that the high G is going to be flat of the mark. The Korg tuner comes to mind there. The Korg tuner, we used to have those diagrams. Do you ever have those?
Yes, I was just thinking the same thing. Yeah, we had a list of the frequencies for the Korg.
Yeah, I feel like I've seen stickers. There was a tuner. There was like a set of stickers you could attach to the Korg tuner that would show you where to look for each note. Maybe I'm making that up. But anyway,
it makes sense. If nobody's done that yet, go for it.
Yeah. Yep, exactly.
That's the thing, right? If it's like one of those guitar tuners, it's not always going to be up and down that you're looking for. You're going to be looking for something different.
Yes. And that is the reality of equal temperament, which most people don't even know about. And by the way, you don't really have to know about it, especially if you use the trial and error tuning method, which is the best method, right? It tends to get us a far higher quality of tuning than the digital tuner could ever get us for a wide variety of reasons, which we won't get into right now. But you have to equal temperament. Like this piano is a digital piano, but it's purposefully detuned, just as all other concert Western pianos are. And the reason for that is a mathematical reason. So in order to get the piano to sound decent in all 12 possible keys, you have to detune the notes to small degrees in order to get that all mathematically to be as close as reasonably possible. And that is the magic of equal temperament. But we don't do that on the pipes because we only play in one key. So we justly tune our pipes, meaning that all the intervals are, as a general starting point. This isn't actually true because of stylistic things that pipers do, but as a general starting point, pipers play mathematically pure intervals. Therefore, final thought. When bagpipers play with concert instruments, they often sound out of tune unless changes are made and fudges are made. It's a complicated universe we live in.
Yeah.
Jim. But anyway, is there a good way to wrap this up? The way I would wrap this up is...
There's no good way. No, I'm just kidding. Go ahead.
Cranky Uncle Andrew's advice to this person is go with your gut, go with your experience, and do a little bit of trial and error, and don't worry about the tuner, right?
They did mention that it sounds okay, and so I think that's a sign that they've got an ear on them and they're focused, they're paying attention, they're noticing that,
Yes. Tuners, 9 times out of 10, if you're in a jam, the tuner is not the way out of the jam, 9 times out of 10. Good old-fashioned logic and common sense is going to get you out of the jam. Can the tuner be a useful reference device? Absolutely. One of the things you'll see all the time, even the top bands use tuners when they tune the drones. That's because it's a great efficiency tool, right? It can get the drone in the ballpark in a group of 150 drones or whatever it is. Not 150. Let's call it in a group of, let's call it a group of
very successful band.
75 drones. So you got 75 drones going. A tuner can be great to hold up to the drone and you can rapidly get the drone close. But one of the things most people don't recognize is that the good bands, they're not tuning the drones using the tuner. They're getting them in the ballpark using the tuner, and then they're locking them in by ear. That's why all great grade 1 bands that I know of have expert bagpipers tuning the drones. Like I remember in SFU, Terry Lee would always be the final guy that checked all the drones. Why would that be? If the digital tuner really worked so great, why do you need some of the world's best tuning experts to do the final check?
Right. You could hire a non-bagpiper, just hire a college student for minimum wage to come and tune your band.
Exactly. And that's why we don't do that, is because the truth of the matter is the tuner is really only a tool for ballparking when you tune the drones with the bagpipes, with the pipe band rather, is what I meant. It's a ballparking device, and we're still going to use our ear at the end of the day. I don't think anybody would disagree with that if they were being honest. Next question. Any more?
Next, yeah. Yeah, how about bagpipes in checked luggage? How do you travel with your pipes, Andrew?
Cool. So,
This person is saying they've got like their laptops and all that stuff, but they're worried about their bagpipes. What do I do with these?
yep. Okay. Great question. The short answer is try to never, ever check your pipes. So you want to pack them in your carry-on luggage. I've got over there, I've got my Bagpiper brand flight safe travel case. It's got backpack straps and it's got wheels. And it also happens to definitely fit in all of the overhead compartments that I need it to fit in, which is pretty cool. But I do a lot of traveling with my pipes. And so if you don't do so much traveling, just don't worry about it too much. But anyway, carry on luggage for the pipes. By the way, my pipe case also has room for my smallish laptop.
All the stuff you want to keep with you.
Yeah, so like you can make it work. But the reason I don't put it under the plane is a couple fold. The first one, have you ever seen how luggage is handled by luggage handlers?
Yeah, sure have. I've sat there in an airplane looking out the window watching the bags just get tossed and just been like, oh my gosh, no.
Yeah, it's not ideal. It's not ideal. I think if you put padding in between the pipes, I don't think your pipes are going to get smashed or destroyed or anything. But I'm just thinking about my reeds getting loose and maybe coming apart, or I'm just worried about it. So that's one reason. The other one is, do you know what temperature it gets down to in the luggage hold in the airplane?
Oh, it's got to get real cold. I don't know, but I'd imagine very
Exactly.
cold.
The main thing you just said there is, I don't know, which is, by the way, same for me. I don't know. Is it room temperature or does it get like frickin' freezing? Like I was watching the Masters of the Air thing, that like the new Band of Brothers style thing that they have out now. And guys are getting frostbite and they're not anywhere close to the altitude that planes fly. So if that is not super temperature controlled down under there, that really could cause damage to my pipes potentially. That kind of freaks me out. Yeah, that kind of freaks me out. And then the other thing is, if I'm traveling on the airplane, what about the rare instance where luggage gets lost or goes to the wrong place for a couple days? So if I'm flying somewhere and I need to be able to play my bagpipes when I get off the plane, if my luggage gets lost, I could be in big trouble.
Yeah.
So
even if you get them back eventually, that's a gig or a competition lost. And why did you do all that travel?
Yep. So next final thought. I have been forced to check my pipes under the plane once or twice, and nothing bad happened. Final thought. But in case of emergency, and by the way, this would have been back in the post 9/11 days where things just got weird. And I remember a couple times where maybe not a couple, maybe it was just once. I don't know. But I remember thinking to myself, I'm not going to win this. I'm just going to check them. Right. And so what I did is I took the pipes and I took them apart, put them inside my suitcase with various items of clothing, padding the pipes, and then checked them. And they were fine. They get off the plane, give them some time to come up to room temperature on their own. Don't play them 5 minutes after they've been on the cold luggage hold. And life did go on. But yes, we want to carry them on.
Here's another really specific one. And I don't know what to imagine is going on here. This person says that they have a drone tuning issue. They say when they hold their bass drone straight upright and get it into tune, it's perfectly in tune. But then when they let go so that it lays back on their shoulder again, it goes sharp, like really sharp. Then they pick it back up, sounds good again, pitch changes. What's going on there?
Okay, this is a known bagpiper issue. This is what, and people get really annoyed with me if I'm teaching a person how to tune. We must reach across and tune the bass drone while it's on the shoulder, because this is a known phenomenon that will regularly happen. It doesn't happen all the time, but it happens regularly where the pitch of the drone, when you bring it forward to tune it, sorry, I keep hitting the microphone. The pitch of the drone, when you bring it forward to tune it, is different than the pitch of the drone when you lay it back down. There's a couple possible reasons for this, and there's probably a couple reasons that I don't really fully understand, but I think one of the big ones is the hemp job on the bass drone wiggles.
Oh.
So the bass drone, your bass drone is actually
like on the tuning slide?
slightly curved. Yeah, your bass drone, because of the hemp job, might end up slightly not straight in some positions, but then when we bring it upright, it is straight. That could be part of it. I think the other one, it just has to do with the angle of the bass drone reed or the bass drone reed tongue. Changing in space can affect it. Obviously, it would be great to have a bass drone that was robust, that didn't change much on you. But the spirit of the thing is, yes, we want to tune the pipes first of all, hemp your bagpipes up well and solidly.
You don't want them sliding
and
when
it's
you move
not
them.
rocking around on you. So get everything set up well. But then still, I always tune in the spirit of, I want to tune my pipes at the exact same pressure in the exact same position that I intend to play my pipes. Because as you move the pipes around in space, there could be micro or not so micro changes in the tuning as a result of the positioning change.
It's not what this person is describing, but I do remember in high school realizing that the problem I was running into when I would pull my drones forward to tune them is that I would, when tuning up, when going sharp, I would just rely on the being able to push against the lower parts of the drone, and I would be squeezing my bag tighter as a result, and I didn't realize that as I was trying to go up.
You could think of it from
everything
a
went
physics
sharper.
Yep, you could think it from a physics lever standpoint as well, right? So when the bass drone is resting on your shoulder, on your collarbone, that is taking weight off from the bag because of the lever. And then meanwhile, when you tip it up vertically, now you have the whole weight of the bass drone pushing down on the bag. So those are two very different things. By the way, if you have bag slippage problems, sometimes the super vertical bass drone could be a major contributing factor, where if we balance it on our body better, then we'll be in better shape.
Balance it on our body better. As an appreciator of alliterative verse, I am really excited about that little statement. That was fun.
Totally accidental.
You got to balance that bass up on your body better. I like it.
Balance that bass on your body better.
I got a couple of like quick opinion ones here for you, Andrew.
Okay. These are the ones that tend to get us in trouble, but okay.
Yeah, good. Do you have any thoughts about which might be the most difficult bagpipe tune ever written to date? Do you have any candidates? What's the hardest tune to play?
Hot take. Ready? No tune worth playing is hard. It's my hot take.
I like it. That's
great.
If
you find a tune hard to play, you're doing it wrong. Okay, now that's my hot take. Now let's can we drill down into what I mean by that?
Yeah,
can I drill down into what I mean by that? Okay, here's what I mean by that. Is all tunes can be easy if you simplify them. Or all tunes worth playing. I've never met a tune where after a bit of simplification, I felt was still extremely difficult to play. Okay, we can modulate.
And I wonder too.
Yep, go ahead.
Tell me if I'm wrong about this, Andrew. But if it's a good tune, then some simplification, it's still a good tune.
Exactly.
Whereas if you've got a tune where you carve out the hard things and suddenly it's like, there's no reason to play this. Maybe it wasn't that good to start with.
Yep. And then, of course, I'm sure there's probably some edge cases. I'm sure like one edge case that comes to mind is Cameronian Rant. If you take all the D throws, throws out of Cameronian Rant, suddenly it doesn't really sound great anymore. So yeah, I guess so. Cameronian Rant, kind of a hard tune or whatever. But the spirit of the thing would be, if a tune requires a billion embellishments to be interesting, that's a bad sign. Right?
Because it maybe is more like just a showcase of your technical prowess than a tune.
And again, that's a generalized statement. I think there's some tunes that feature tricky embellishments and it's just awesome and it's cool. There's a few of them. I mean, there's probably a few of those. But just generally speaking, I don't play tunes due to their, I don't decide to play tunes based on their difficulty level. I choose them based on how interesting or not interesting they are. And usually what makes them interesting is the melody. Usually. It's the melody, it's the rhythm, it's the feel. And then everything, after a little bit of simplification, almost every tune I've ever met can be played in a way that's not super, super difficult. I think we did that before on the podcast, didn't we? We did Bonnie Ann in simplified form. Remember that?
Simplified it down, yeah.
In my opinion, with no embellishments at all, it's still an awesome melody. So Nothing's too hard. What was the original question? What are the hardest tunes?
Yeah, what's the hardest bagpipe tune ever
Yeah.
written? Hardest tune to play.
Yeah, don't know. Tough one. It depends what you
Okay,
consider to be hard too, right? It depends on
yeah,
their
that's fair.
strengths and
There's
weaknesses.
yeah, definitely some subjective stuff going on there. What about the best bagpipe band competition performance ever to date
Oh man.
so far?
In my opinion, there is only one. And this is just one man's opinion.
Mm-hmm.
Hands down, in my opinion, one man's opinion, hands down, best pipe band. It's pipe band, right?
Yes, that's right. Pipe band competition performance.
Yeah. SFU Medley 2008. In my opinion, hands down. In my opinion, there are no other contenders close. It was just a spectacular performance. It's one of the few pipe band medleys that, like, when I'm in the mood to listen to something that fires me up, I'll actually turn it on. You know what I mean? I don't turn on Electric Slide or what are the other ones? Eye of the Tiger. I don't know why Electric Slide came to mind. That doesn't pump me up at all. But anyway, it's like Eye of the Tiger, and then
on your way to the CrossFit gym, what you've got pumping then is the 2008 medley.
Yep, it's so great. It's such a cool medley. Which, by the way, super fans of pipe bands might know that a couple of my compositions are in that medley. But that's not the reason I love it. It's just because the performance is so, so great. Just perfect. And all the little touches and all the little details. And it builds momentum so, so great. And the finisher is so great. Everything's so great, Jim. Everything. The jigs are great. Strathspeys bays are great. It actually has 2 opening tunes, which is pretty rare for a medley. Both of which are great.
So either, Andrew, I keep scrolling Reddit, or we transition from us talking into, I'm sure I can get video of the performance, and we just transition into that, and we could end the episode with a playthrough of that medley if you wanted.
Yep, it's a great medley. As long as it doesn't violate any copyright, I think that sounds good.
Hey everybody, Andrew Douglas here from the Pipers Dojo, and I just want to say thanks so much for listening to today's iteration of the podcast. If you enjoyed what you heard here today, it would be super helpful to us and to a lot of bagpipers out there trying to find us if you could give us a top-notch review on whatever platform you're using to listen to this podcast, particularly Apple, iTunes, and Spotify and things like that. Your review would be really, really helpful. So if you have a moment today, definitely go over there and help us out. Other than that, until we meet again on the podcast or somewhere else, thanks again for listening.